Alright, so I know what you're thinking. This video is like 20 plus minutes long. Don't worry, I'll do my best to get through it quickly, but hey, we're learning a brand new program or you're learning a brand new technique. You can't always do that in 5 minutes, but I think this video is going to be worth it. So if you stick through it, follow along on your computer, maybe watch this on a tablet and use your computer in front of you, I think you can build something pretty awesome and learn a really cool new trick or possibly a trade from this video. So stick through it and let me know what your results look like in the comments. Thanks. I'm going to show you how to make a lightsaber. Specifically, we're going to be modeling Obi-Wan's lightsaber. Now, I'm going to be using a program. It's called Blender. It's free and it's very powerful. It's very fun. It does take some time to learn and to learn how to make what you want to make. But once you learn the basics, this program is very, very awesome. I use it to make a lot of my special effects. I've made digital props that I've used in photo shoots, lots of lightsabers for sure. So yeah, it's a great asset and I'm really glad that I took the time to learn it. I have made plenty of lightsabers before for previous photo shoots where the client didn't have a real lightsaber to hold, couldn't afford one, they're not cheap, or I just wanted to make a custom one for them. So I modeled it in Blender. I would then pose, render, and light it, and then I would take that final image and blend it into Photoshop and make it look real. So that's a fun thing that I've done for wedding pictures, for photo shoots, for all kinds of stuff. I even made one lightsaber model with internal details that were all moving and working, and basically made all the parts inside the lightsaber so that I could open that up, and I use it in a picture where the Jedi is actually making his own lightsaber. So he's putting all the parts together and they're all floating in the air. So that was a lot of fun, a lot of work, but it was worth it. So I'm going to show you some real basic modeling skills in this video, and if you don't know anything about Blender, might be a good intro video. I hope it is. I've never done a video teaching 3D before, so we'll see. But the modeling tricks that we're going to use in this program are going to be relatively basic, but very powerful, and even the pros use these tricks that we're going to do today. So in Blender, when you first open it, it's going to look like this. We've got our 3D viewport. Now if I hold Alt and I left click and move my mouse around, I can move in 3D. If I press plus, I zoom in. If I press minus, I zoom out. And if I go through the numbers on my keypad, it's going to go through different basic views, left, right, top. Your 2 goes down, 3 goes over, rotating. And 1, 2, 7, and 9 are the basic flat views. So hopefully that helps you get around in the viewport. I mostly am just zooming in and out and holding Alt to get to where I want. And if I hold Alt and Shift, I can just pan and move that way. 5 will give you the 3D aspect. 5 again will turn it off and make it just a flat, called isometric, I believe it is. Alright, so before I get going with the modeling part, I want to teach you some basic commands. So Shift A is going to get you to the adding menu, which is where we're going to add our basic cylinder shape and build our lightsaber. And you've got all the other shapes and parts there too. If I press Tab, that goes into polygon editing mode. Now it's just a solid shape here, but if I do Tab, I can actually access the polygons. Down here I can choose to edit the dots or vertexes, the edges, or the faces. Most of what we're going to be doing is editing the faces. So once you right click on a face, you see the flat square that makes up that cube edge. If I can move it by hitting G, which will move in 3 dimensions, or I'm going to right click to get out of that, or I can hit R to rotate that, right click to undo. But what we're going to do a lot in this video is a lot of extruding, and that means when you hit E, it's going to make a new face and it's going to extrude from that point. See that? I just made a new face by hitting E. There it is. Also, we're going to do a lot of scaling. So S will scale that face based on the center point of it. So we can do a trick like this, where we do that, extrude it, scale it down, extrude it. See, I just made a shape. Another trick is the I. We'll do an inset, and then we can extrude that to kind of make it like a, give it some shape. And Control B will bevel it, which will add those 3-dimensional edges. So yeah, so those 3 or 4 key commands on your keyboard are really what a lot of this modeling is going to be to make our lightsaber. So let's get started. I'm going to hit Tab to get out of edit mode. I'm going to delete this. Delete, okay. All right, so I'm going to get back to a normal place. Shift and Alt, and then Alt to rotate. I'm going to do Shift A to make a cylinder. Now when you make a cylinder, before you do anything, you want to go over here on the left side and you can set up your basic cylinder settings, and then after that they're set and you can't change them. So all I'm going to do is I'm going to change this vertices number to about 100. That means there's 100, if I press period, there's 100 little edges around this whole thing. See in wireframe? The more edges, the smoother it's going to look. Another trick to make it smooth is to click the smooth button. Over here on the left, hit smooth. And then to fix that weird looking shading, on the right side, we're going to go to this little triangle with the dots and hit auto smooth. That means the edges are smooth, but the sharp edges, like this 90-degree edge on the top and bottom, are going to be sharp. Alright, so before we get to the modeling part, let's set up our screen. Now, Blender is awesome because you can custom design your setup and how you want it to look. So if I click this little line diagonal thing up here in the corner, I can split this and I can make multiple windows. And then once you put your mouse in the middle, you can stretch that up or down. Alright, so once we've got it split in half, what I'm going to do is I'm going to click this bottom left menu and I'm going to change this from the 3D view to the image viewer. And all I'm going to do is I'm going to load an image of Obi-Wan's saber. Open on the bottom. And now I've downloaded this off of Google Images. You can find this too. Just look up lightsaber pictures and find a nice sideways view of a lightsaber that you want to make. Obi-Wan side view. Alright, there we go. We have it. If I hit plus, I'm going to zoom in. Alright, now what I'm going to do from here is I'm going to change this image viewer to the 3D view. So again, this menu, there's lots of different windows you can look at. We're just going to go to 3D view. Now I'm going to hit this little plus, or if you can hit in, and it'll bring over this menu. Scroll all the way close to the bottom, and you see background image. I'm going to check that, add image. Now this little drop down menu, instead of opening that one I already opened earlier, it's kind of in the memory of Blender for now. So I'm going to select that image, and there we go. So I've got a background image with the lightsaber. Now if I hit 1 and 5, which makes it flat 3D, I've got basically it's superimposing the image in the background. Make sure back is selected, 100% transparent. There we go. So I've got my 3D stuff on top. Hit 1 again, and my picture in the background, which I'm going to model on top of. That's going to kind of be our tracing guide to help us make this shape correct. All right, so basically you select things in Blender by right-clicking on them. Now we're only going to have one shape for now, so it's pretty simple. So it's already selected. You see you've got the 3D arrows there. I'm going to hit G to move this over right here. And I'm going to hit R, which is rotate. And I'm going to hit 90 on my keyboard. I just rotated at 90 degrees. Instead of doing meticulously by hand, I just hit 90 and boom, it's rotated. Zoom in with plus. All right, so I'm going to scale this main cylinder down to roughly match this shiny silvery part on the lightsaber. And that's going to be kind of our starting point. We're going to model everything after that point. All right, so the reason I have two views is so that I can see in 3D and then I can see in 2D. I'm basically tracing on the top, and then the bottom is where I'm really going to be moving around and doing a lot of the modeling. So let's hit tab, right click on this face, and again I'm on faces mode down here. Let's see this little square on the cube, right click on that, and I'm just going to grab this red arrow and I'm going to stretch it out. Okay. Now if we zoom in more, you can see this kind of stops down into the black part. So I'm going to hit I, and I'm going to move my mouse to make this roughly around there, that size. Zoom in a little bit more for you. All right, so E for extrude. Awesome. Now here's where we're going to do a little bit of fun modeling to make this grip piece. We're going to first extrude it. We're going to make one chunk, and then we're going to duplicate it over and over and over. And it'll save us time. Instead of doing the same thing repeatedly, we're going to make one piece and then copy it. All right, so E for extrude. I'm going to shrink this down. I'm kind of looking at the top screen and looking at the bottom screen at the same time. Extrude again. Extrude again. Scale it with S. Extrude. Extrude. Scale it down. All right, we're almost done with this first piece. And extrude. There we go. All right, so here's a little trick. I'm going to hold Control and I'm going to hit plus, which is I'm selecting. It's going to be a growing selection. So there, plus again, plus again, plus again. All right, so I have grabbed basically this first grip piece. It's going to be duplicated all the way to the end. All right, let's duplicate it with Shift D and then press X in your keyboard That's going to allow us to move this piece along the x-axis and click to say OK. Shift DX. Okay, again, Shift DX. Awesome. See how much time we're saving? Shift DX. Shift DX. Ooh, that one's a little off. Gotta be perfectionist. Shift DX. Shift DX. Alright, awesome. Cool. To make this grip one solid piece so that we can texture it later, hit the invisibility button. When this is up, that means I can select shapes that are on the other side. If it's down, that means I can only select what's right in front of me. So let's make sure it's up. It's got the little cube with the dots on the corners. I'm going to use B to make a square selection. And basically dragging just like Photoshop. It's a big old square selector. Awesome. Now holding Alt, I'm just going to look around. Yep, I've got the whole thing selected. Awesome. I'm going to make this its own mesh, which is an individual object, by hitting P, and I want to separate. P is for separate. Selection. There we go. So once I hit Tab and get out of edit mode, I've got this piece. Awesome, and I've got this piece. That's good. They're separate. That's going to help me when I texture them and make them colored later. All right, so moving on. And it's good to have all the main pieces their own individual shapes. All right, so moving on. Let's. I went back into Tab, which is Edit Polygon Edit mode. I'm going to move this front piece back a little bit, and I'm going to scale it down just like the image is. Zoom in some more on this image over here. Alt. Oops. Alt Shift to slide left and right, not in 3D. All right, now I to inset it. Let's make a smaller piece for this chrome part, and E for extrude. Now that's a little too small. So growing selection. Then I'm going to hit S to scale this up. Okay, now it's the right size up here, but we got this weird. It's going inwards. I'm just going to use my arrows to move that back to where I want it. Select this end piece and move it back. See how you have total control? You just have to know how to control it. You can do pretty much anything in 3D. That's why I love it. All right, S to scale that up, E to extrude it, E to extrude it, S, scale it up. And I'm going to hit E, enter, and then scale that piece without really extruding it much. I'm just going to slide it up. Got some weird shapes going on. There you go. E, click. Remember, you have to click or hit enter when you're done extruding to say OK, or to finalize that extrusion. Okay, E, S, E, E, S. All right, move over here. Hit I to shrink this down a little bit for this next darker golden piece. Extrude it. Oh, I got lucky. I got the right size. E, S, E, S. E, E, S, minus, minus, Alt, and drag to zoom around in 3D. All right, we're going to extrude this again to make this silver part. E, E, S, make a big piece. When I'm going to zoom out a little bit on this top view. Okay, E, there. Now it's not exactly at the scale, but if you notice, this bottom image is a normal actual photograph, so there's 3 dimensions. So we've kind of got some bending because that's how pictures work. But it's all right. You don't have to be too perfectionist when it comes to that. So I'm gonna go extrude again, scale it up just a little bit. Extrude, extrude, scale, extrude. All right, so that's pretty much it. And just to be fancy, I'm gonna hit Control B, make a nice beveled edge on the top. All right, now right click on this center circle, which is the very end cap right now. Hit I. All right, now we've got this circle still selected. We can move this in and out and make a cool little end cap where the saber is going to come out. Now I'm going to hit E and extrude it inwards. Instead of going outwards, we can go backwards. I'm going to shrink it, make it smaller. Awesome. And I'm going to I again. I'm going to move this out. Maybe scale it up a little bit. I, E. All right, I know you don't have to do that. I'm just being fancy. I'm just showing off. So cool. That looks pretty nice, doesn't it? Just a few minutes. We already made a pretty realistic looking shape. All right, let's Alt Shift and drag over here, and let's make the bottom end. This is one independent mesh, so we need to right click on the original cylinder that we made. There we go. You see that orange line around it. That means it's selected. All right, tab into edit mode. Right click on that very end cap. Let's do I, shrink it down just a little bit, and extrude that all the way over here. Now we're going to add those bumpy black things later. They're going to be a separate mesh. All right, I'm going to extrude this and shrink it down a little bit with S for scale. Extrude, scale it up to make the silver piece. And I'm moving my mouse, up and down to change the size, by the way. Extrude, extrude again, scale it, extrude again. Now this is where we're getting into that three-dimensional issue where the bottom image has 3 dimensions and this top one doesn't, and that's okay. Extrude that across, and we're going to make those bumps with another mesh. Extrude, scale it. Extrude, scale it. Oh, sorry, come over here. I extrude, and to finish this off on the bottom, I like to do a bevel, so Control B. Nice rounded edge there. Awesome. All right, so tab to get out of edit mode. We've got our basic Obi-Wan saber looking pretty nice. All right, let's get into the details. So over here on the right, we can put the image in front of our model and then crossfade between our model, which is behind, and the image on top. So let's put it around, I don't know, maybe 0.3, 30%, so we can kind of see both. All right, so over here we've got these bumps, right? It's a grip. I'm gonna make the image all the way visible. So we've got these big rubbery grips that stick out. The way we're gonna do that is we're gonna make a cylinder. And remember earlier we made a cylinder with 100 edges around the radius? Well, this time we're gonna make one with about 12. So Shift A and make your cylinder. Now look at that. It's kind of out of the over there. It's not in the center. That's because I clicked somewhere accidentally, and I'm gonna fix that by doing spacebar. Type in center, snap cursor to center. So your cursor is not what's moving around. Your cursor is this little bullet, this little crosshair thing. That's a 3-dimensional cursor. And if you move it around, it'll make a shape wherever that is. So I just reset it to center using spacebar and then typing in center. All right, so Shift A, make my cylinder. There it is, back in the middle. And I'm gonna make this 12-sided. Look at that, it's kind of a bumpy, it's not really a cylinder anymore. It's a dodeca something. All right, and I'm going to hit R to rotate 90 degrees. Oops, that didn't work. I'm going to hit R, Y for the Y axis, and 90. Awesome. All right, now let's slide it back to where it belongs, which is over here. And I'm going to change this little opacity so I can see what I'm modeling. There we go, about half and half almost, 0.2. So moving it here, let's scale it down with S. That scales everything based on the center point. Now I notice that these things are not exactly in the center axis. They're not centered yet. So if you right click on a shape and you come over here to the yellow cube, you can fix the location of it. And I made sure that X and X and Z is 0. I'm gonna select on this guy and make that 0 as well. This moves it up just a hair. That way everything is centered on the same axis, which is good because a lightsaber is, perfectly symmetrical or on an axis. So inside this mesh, I've got my new cylinder here that I'm gonna turn into a bumpy grip piece. So it's right there. If I hit Z, you can see the mesh wireframe. Hit Z to go back. All right, so here's the trick. I'm gonna first hit /, which solos out the shape, hit tab for edit, and I'm gonna unselect these edges. So holding shift, I'm gonna right click and right click. That means everything is selected except for those, the end caps. And now from here, I'm going to extrude all of them individually. So over here on the right menu, I'm going to do extrude individual. And then again, as I move my mouse, that's how much is extruding. We're going to make those bumpy pieces with this. So looking at the top reference image, don't make them too tall, but not too small. So click to finalize that. And let's make sure that this little circle thing is set to individual origins. That way when we scale this, it's scaling them on individual origins. If it's not, if it's on something else, then it's gonna do different scalings. So individual origins, scale them down just a little bit, and then hit Control B, add a nice smooth edge. Awesome. That's good enough for me. Now hit / again to go back. Pretty cool, huh? All right, we're going to do similar with this back end, but instead of doing 12, we're going to do 6. So Shift A, make another cylinder with 6 sides, move it back with the red arrow, R for rotate, Y-axis 90, enter. Awesome. We need to scale this down, but also on the X-axis. So S for scale and X for X-axis. That's a lot of confusing syllables for me to say. I hope you understand that. Letter S, letter X. There we go. And then move your mouse. So we're going to shrink it down to make it a little bit skinnier. Awesome. Tab for edit, / to solo it out. Shift right click that end cap and shift right click that end cap. So we only have these pieces selected. Now extrude individual over here. Stick them out a little bit. And then scale. We have individual origin scaling. So they're scaling on their own individual origin. And a little bit of a bevel, Control B. Awesome. Looks good. And tab to get out of edit mode. / to get back to our normal view. And it looks a little chunky. I'm going to shrink that down a little bit by just doing scale. There. I think that looks pretty cool. Again, it's not exact to the image, but you know what? Sue me. Don't really sue me, please. Okay, so one little detail left, and we're pretty much done with the modeling, is this little control thing over here in this little port, which I think is supposed to connect to the waist. This is really easy. Let's just make a cube. Shift A. We're going to do cube. Shrink it down a little bit. I'm going to fix this crossfade over here just so I can see both of them. Moving it over, moving it up. Now here's where we're going to do some scaling. SX, we're going to make it a little bit longer, and then SY to make it skinnier, and then SZ to make it shorter. And I'm going to hit G. G will move this around. Since I'm only looking in 2 dimensions, this is only going to move it, and I guess this is Y and X. So there, I'm going to scale it down just a little bit. Awesome. And then I'm going to lower it because I'm going to extrude this top face and make it look a little bit more detailed. Zooming in with plus. So E to extrude, S to scale, E to extrude, Control B to bevel those edges. Selecting this top one with a right click, I'm going to hit I to make an inset and then extrude downwards. There we go. That's good enough. Now there's a bunch of other details. There's little lines and stuff, but I won't mess with that right now. It's a little bit advanced. Now one more thing and we're done. Let's make another cylinder. Shift A, make a cylinder. We're going to make this a nice smooth one. So bring this back up to 100 over here on the left. 100 vertices. Let's rotate it with R. Hit X and 90. Okay. S to scale it down. It's kind of disappearing. That's okay. Slide it over. Again, you can hit G. Now, because it's inside the mesh, I can't really see it, but I have it selected, so I'm going to move it outwards with this green arrow. Right there. Still a little big. I'm going to scale it down. There. Cool. Now, let's hit period to zoom into it. Now I can really look at this. It kind of centers my view on that shape because I hit period. Tab for edit. Select this outer face. Control B to bevel it. Awesome. Select the center cap. I to inset it. E to extrude it. Another I. Let's move this in a little bit. Let's do another I and extrude, oops, outwards just a little bit and scale it down. Kind of give it a little bit of an effect there. Now, at the original, it's lower because this whole thing is rotated downwards. I'm not going to worry about the angle right now. I'm just going to worry about the size. So the size is about right. And I didn't do the perfect shaping. It's all right. So that's pretty much where it goes. You can size it down just a little bit, make it a little bit less distracting. There we go. Awesome. So there you have it, your lightsaber in 3 dimensions. All right, in the next video, we're going to texture it and make it look photorealistic. Hope you guys enjoyed this video. I know it was a little bit long, but I hope you guys learned something. If you have any questions or problems, just ask in the comments.